As an addendum to traps and trappers, to focus a bit more on the trap is more of the singular, and the trappers is more plural. And that plurality is the problem. How many pieces are you chopping yourself into? The first chop of being birthed into this physical reality, that is the first trap. That's the self-trap, the trap of the realm itself. This is the story we romanticize to ourselves. Who we are, where we are, what we are. We are birthed into this experience with great pain and apparent separation, into the experience of codependency, straight into codependency, birthed from the independent into the codependent. If that is stage one, then the initial lesson has to deal with dependence. What that does, how deep a story that goes into our code, how we generate our interpretations of ourselves, each other, continually chopping up our experience. The physical body, the mental body, the mind, the soul, continually chopping into the realm itself, chopping you from other people, chopping you from the experience, the NPCs who appear as other people. The realm itself is a chop because we are aware of that which cannot be chopped. That in itself is a lesson that goes beyond this realm, that not everybody is going to come to understand in the slightest because of how much they've chopped themselves, chopped into complete separation, even with yourself, chopping the experience, chopping yourself out of this realm, chopping your mind into a separation from nature, into the exploitation of nature, into the exploitation of natural people, manipulators of a realm, getting into the code of the realm to harvest energy within other frequencies, literal frequencies. When you look at the radio, the television, the Wi-Fi, the harp, your antenna, your expression. Once you shift from codependency to independence on many levels, but more importantly, the psychological level, once that switch turns on, your frequency changes in that your relationship to yourself and the intelligence beyond just this realm gets stronger, but has the potential to become weaker over time based upon where you focus that energy. Are you taking that independence and channeling that energy into romanticizing yourself as independent from the all, which is in the fabric of the realm itself? Romanticizing the you separate from anything. On into the next chapters, romanticizing ideas as love by writing others into your book of romanticism, adding even more complexity to the intentions of this realm itself. In order to make that experience as strong as possible, it has to be woven into the fabric of your mind as early as possible. In the developmental stages, those codes will influence that reality, that separation, without the proper guidance. The common theme is to turn natural beings into NPCs. The realm versus the awareness. It is a place to find your independence through codependency. Whether the independence is you or your expression as a singular expression is up to you. Everything and everybody is a distraction from that. It's a design by the realm to lock you even further into the codependency of the realm itself. Parasites hack the realm to siphon energy from the awareness within the realm. So the awareness must be toned down, if not completely removed from the farm animals. The realm itself, the experience itself, is designed to reassure you of your codependence as you are experiencing this reality in a realm, codependent upon the realm to have an experience. That reliance ultimately tricks you out of your own self-reflection. At the extremes, people inflate the ego, which is a dream within a dream, and then take it as far as falling in love with the realm, through the realm. You start to love the separation and fall deeper into the illusion. This is what all of the romanticizing within the realm is. This is why love is seen to be the end-all be-all. It's all you need. It's everything. It's what we're here for, so on and so forth. Because in reproducing within this realm, on the simplest levels of a thought, an expression, to the most complex, which is to invite a part of your code from this expression to engage within this realm. From realm to realm and beyond you, when you leave this realm, what you vest into that energy, into that expression, that relationship, has the potential for the highest love. That love is functional and is live, as opposed to pre-recorded. Your ability to love is based upon how deep that code of love was programmed into your reality, whether you have done this or whether those around you have done this. That is the initial, real translation of love that will affect the rest of your experience. It's live because it's generating your definition of love. It's generating the experience and the experiencer. As mentioned in previous videos, the function of love being to raise a being, to have the experience, to raise him or herself, to set them up to be the most prepared to engage within this experience. But if you came into this world through people who are already having a difficult time themselves with this realm, with themselves within this realm, with codependency, with their independence, you're starting out on negative levels, in a hole, waking up in a hole. To dig yourself out of that hole can in many cases take lifetimes. To reproduce while you are still in a hole is what ultimately slows down time and slows the ability of your code to break out of that repetitive theme, that repetitive relationship with this realm and all other realms that are equivalent, that teach you the same story, the same lesson. There are other ways to find your way back to the center. It's not just through codependency, independence, and love. This is just one way to make that move. To truly know, the test has to go to the extreme, in that every moment of your life will be dedicated to reinforcing that separation, that idea that there's any intelligence within this relationship that you have with the realm overall. This is why your separation from understanding the realm itself is so crucial to maintaining the battery field. Because when you break out of the illusion, you pull your batteries out of their system. The realm itself trauma bonds you to your separation, to the romanticizing of yourself within this realm. This is what the story of relationships is. The reinforcing of the illusion, the shock, the fear, the uncertainty, reinforced by the love of your parents, reinforced by the mother's milk, reinforced by the language, the sounds, the smells, the food, the laughter, the happiness, the relationships, the stories, everything reinforcing that separation in every moment, raised by trauma-bonded parents, reinforcing the trauma, romanticizing religious stories to maintain a particular frequency that is beneficial, that allows for things to happen on a macro scale. Trauma bonded in the awareness that The most people who have been removed from this experience were removed by that very idea of a connection that you have with that which is beyond this realm. To understand the realm is to understand yourself. There's a relationship that we have with the stars, the sun, the moon, the elements. It's a code. It's a story. When that story turns into dead planets, a vacuum of emptiness, nothingness, that part of the story becomes part of your story. You become dead. You become empty. You become disconnected from the divine. If you cannot know the realm, you cannot know yourself beyond the realm. So making your relationship with the complexity of an already separated interpretation of reality, making that even more complex, is at the foundation of your control, of mass control. So they make you love it. This is why you have children surrounded by space programming and dinosaurs as soon as they're born, all the way through school. When you're an adult, you never see or even care about space and dinosaurs ever again. But why is it so important? Look at all the toys. Look at all the books. Look at all the clothes, the movies, the repetition, constantly reinforcing on every level. Sound, sight, smell. You even eat dinosaur chicken nuggets. It becomes you. You become it. So you thicken that codependent relationship with this realm so much. It solidifies and doesn't move. It doesn't grow. It stays contained in the idea of infinite space, an uncharted nothingness that is supposed to be infinite and vast, that is inaccessible by beings in your conscious reality, creates a trap. You become confined by their illusions. No different than the illusions that confine you in the education system and the idea of race, blackness and whiteness, strength and weakness, based upon the mainstream interpretations of strength and weakness and intelligence. The seasoning to your enslavement, your self-enslavement into the illusion of separation, eventually trauma bonding yourself, vesting into the illusion until you hate yourself or even hurt yourself to feel something. The purity of a child consciousness, brand new coming in here, needs to be hit the hardest in order to maintain that illusion. So they are extremely codependent. They need that connection just to feel warm, as opposed to cold, which is no movement. That warmth, creating that foundation to build with that love as a function to grow, trauma bonding into the realm and out of your relationship to beyond the realm. The stories told to you in school and by your own parents are the romanticizing of that trauma bond. To romanticize trauma. Trauma cuts directly and gets activated very quickly. You romanticize yourself into the Stockholm Syndrome with the realm. You buy the stories, you add to the stories, you tell those stories to the next generation. Your code never goes beyond this realm. The experience is the code. How you interact with the experience is the code. Breaking out of that trauma, breaking out of that romanticism is what activates a new code. Because you're writing code within a realm that's designed to disassemble your code. So the sensitivities of a child are peaked. A child experiences heavy trauma because they are so sensitive. This is why they cry. Maxed out codependency. That maxed out codependency can be seen as a maxed out separation from independence. which is the singular relationship. That relationship that transcends separation. In your reaction to this realm, the extremes of this realm, the codependency that is required to even survive within this realm, the reaction to that is a numbing sensation. You become numb to the pains. You acquiesce to the environment, to the extremes of that environment, and it numbs you. And that becomes the foundation. You build upon that numbed out foundation. That numbing sensation is held up. It's sitting on a foundation of storylines, which is romanticism. Whatever we tell ourselves about that experience, our relationship to that experience. Every single relationship, that romanticism adds further complexity to your relationship to this experience and reinforces in many different ways that trauma bond. Reinforces the separation that keeps you from breaking out of that trauma bond. When that trauma bond becomes the norm by romanticizing the experience. So loving the experience so much, it generates a new story for you. The realm becomes your story. And you reinforce the re-engaging within that realm. Love itself, outside of function, is the ultimate trap. It's the lifeblood of trauma bonding. Those who haven't done that work suck the lifeblood out of the innocence, turn their next generations into batteries for themselves. And they do to their children what the realm has done to them. And regenerate that trauma bond, separating you from nature, separating you from your understanding of your relationship with this realm. How it works, what it looks like, all that seems trivial. But it's meant to create emptiness and reinforce that trauma bond. Reinforce that relationship, that romanticized relationship that you have with the powers who gave you that storyline, knowing that none of their storylines have ever been for the benefit of you and nature, have only been reinforced towards the greed, the sucking of that lifeblood in so many different parts of your reality. The most extreme case is to turn parents into vampires. It allows for that movement to become stagnant. To reinforce the original story, the trauma-bonded story of you being birthed into this reality, thrust into the arms of codependency, still connected, cut from that natural realm by the doctors of science, immediately to reinforce that trauma bond for the harvesters. The parents do their best in the first 5 years to reinforce that bond, and the school takes over from there. By the time they're 18, they know nothing but trauma, and they seek to become bonded with that experience, reinforcing that trauma through social media, through the phones, down to the seconds of every day. They got the seconds now. Before this, it was minutes. Before that, it was hours. Before that, it was days. Phones, computers, TVs, news, radios, newspapers. The amount of time it took to reinforce that trauma bond when it was just the newspaper out there. Then it was just the radio. Then it was the TV, the radio, and the newspaper. Then it was the computer. Now, the microcomputer, the phone, reinforcing every second. How many seconds, moments of the day is that story being told through this technology? This is the connection to connection through disconnection, the introduction to independence through codependency, the fibers to the fabric of this realm. You can weave yourself back to yourself, or you can weave that fabric until it blinds and weighs you down, so much so that even your future generations can't move. They can't see, and eventually they won't be able to experience this realm at all. Each void being filled by an NPC to make this experience even more complex, to make it that much more difficult. With each victory, which is why they push so hard with these illusions, it becomes a victory. With each victory, each natural being that comes and goes and reinforces the illusion creates a space to make this illusion that much more complex. A storyline, an individual, an NPC becomes a part of the plot. This is why, as technology has grown, the realness of the individual has shrunken into oblivion. The norm has become the NPC. The natural has become rare. I don't know what happens when the status quo completely shifts, but I do know that there is a definite reason why we should reinforce the real. There is a purpose there. Intuitively, something seems off with the expansion of that separation, with the evolving of the romanticism. So quite naturally, your reconnection with the beyond and your separation from those illusions is important on many levels. Like a light in a dark room, you don't need much. So we can still function as the minority and still hold this ground and maintain whatever needs to be maintained. Because this work does affect the tide, the shift in those tides. And there's no amount of censorship that can sway that.